The 1517 to Paris is directed by Clint Eastwood and stars Alan Sakaretos, Anthony Sadler, and Spencer Stone, who all play themselves in this true story about a heroic event about these three guys who were on a train from Amsterdam to Paris, which then got boarded by a terrorist, and these three guys, with a couple of other special people, managed to take over this terrorist and stop him from committing a potential tragedy. I have to give this movie credit for being bold. I mean, this film really was an interesting concept because not only because this is a true story and it's a very heroic story to portray, but also because the three lead actors in this film were actually the real people. These are the people who went through this event, who experienced it, and have actually come back to reenact it. And I do have to give these three guys credit as well, because that is an incredibly brave thing to do, to go through such a almost harrowing event like that, and then to do it again almost. Obviously, it doesn't quite have the exact same effect, but the fact that they would have to put themselves through that again is a very bold move. So I have to give the movie that. And I actually quite enjoyed this movie on the whole. I think it's a very enjoyable film, but it's terribly, terribly made. So those three lead guys, obviously, they're not actors. These three guys, they are the same people. So therefore, they're not experienced in the acting game, and it shows. These guys, when they deliver some of these lines, it is honestly awful. And it really does show the fact that these guys are inexperienced. And again, they can't really help that because they are inexperienced, and they probably wouldn't have done this. It's just because Clint Eastwood wanted the three guys to make it authentic. But I will give the fact that they are all extremely likable. They are very, very good leads in that sense of the word. You know, they are there, and you can watch the film and you can follow these guys because they are very likable, and you do kind of buy them as these people. And you buy them as good people, and that's exactly what this film needed to sell, and it does sell that with these three. Although they weren't exactly very good actors, again, I think they were strong enough leads just based on their personalities. But all of their line delivery and all the awfulness that comes from that cannot be helped by the absolute atrocious script that they are given to work with. Oh my good god, the script in this film is horrific. I cannot describe how bad it is, just the way that it's written with some of the dialogue. There's a lot of scenes earlier on in the film which deals with these three guys as children, and the way that is written is just not the way any child would speak, and even the way that they are portrayed as adults doesn't reflect how an adult would speak and communicate with each other, especially these friends. You know, they feel a lot younger than they should be, and that's a big problem when perhaps older people are writing a script, and I would love to see who the screenwriters are, because they are clearly older, and if I'm wrong there, I'll be very surprised. But you can tell that they are just trying to make this script fit for a younger audience, for these younger type characters, even though that's not how anybody speaks around this age bracket. Also, Clint Eastwood, you need to stop directing, mate. I mean, you're a great actor, but you've never been a great director. I mean, you've had a couple of good flops in there, but honestly, you're terrible. And it proves again here, this is a really terribly directed film. The camera work alone is really awful. Like, there's just some really long tracking shots, especially towards the beginning of the film, where it's just showing these shots, and they're not exciting shots. Like, you're looking at them because this is not showing me anything. It's very close up, and it's not giving you a broader picture of anything, and it's just boring to watch. And that's a big problem. You know, if you look at a film that Clint Eastwood did about a year ago called Sully, which is a film I quite enjoyed, I did have problems with it, but that film wasn't particularly great directed either. And again, the 1517 to Paris is not very well directed. I just feel that Clint Eastwood, he needs to retire at this point. Like, it's clearly not working out for him, and it proves it again here. Now, the biggest problem this movie has is that it has so much irrelevant stuff within it. Most of the content within this film is set up where, as I mentioned earlier, we have a very long section of the movie dedicated to these three kids in primary school, or junior high, as it's called in the US, and it's showing them how they meet, and how some of them already met, and how they all came together, and how they all grow together to be friends. And that is just, it's not necessary. That is not needed in a film like this. And then we also have most of the film, which is taking up probably, I'd say, a good hour of it, or 50 minutes or so, where it's just these three guys backpacking around Europe, and it's literally, we're just following them on their holiday. That's actually all it is. It's not any setup, there's nothing there. It's literally just them on this holiday. You could be watching your friends, like, Snapchat stories. That's exactly what this felt like, especially when one of them's constantly using a selfie stick too, and it almost becomes a joke at a point. It's just, all of it feels so irrelevant, and it doesn't work for a true story, because when you are dealing with a true story, you don't need to establish the fact that some of these characters or people are actual friends in real life. We know that for a fact, so you don't need to really establish that. If this was a fictional story, then yes, I would say yes, we do need to spend time with these characters, and we need to see them develop and grow as friends, because then that gives them a lot of levity and a lot of weight, so we can actually buy the fact that these people are friends and do have a close connection. But we don't need that in a true story film, because we know that for a fact. So the fact that this movie had to deal with all this stuff when it wasn't necessary was almost infuriating. I think that the 1517 to Paris should have just been left as a book. I feel that the fact that this was adapted to a film is one of those instances where this is an incredible story, it really is, but it should not have been adapted into a film. It's just, there's not enough content there in the real world to actually adapt into a movie, because about the final 15 minutes of this film is what matters. The final 15 minutes is the actual act, and then the ending where they get awarded for it. And that's all that really matters. But sticking with the train scene alone, that's about 10 minutes of the movie. Honestly, it's about 10 minutes, and in real life, that scenario would have been about 10 minutes of time. So the fact you only have 10 minutes to work with shows that this film shouldn't have been an hour and a half. It shouldn't have been a film in general, because there's not enough there to adapt. And obviously, if you are going to do an adaptation, obviously you change things to make it for a film. That's what you do. That's what an adaptation is. If you didn't do that, then it wouldn't be an adaptation at all. But there are some things that just shouldn't be adapted because you haven't got enough content to work with, and that's the case here with the 1517 to Paris. This should have just been left as a book, and the fact it has been led into a film shows that this story, while incredible, just wasn't enough for a cinematic release. However, I do have one massive positive, and that is Judy Greer, who plays Spencer Stone's mother in the movie. She is actually obviously an actress, that's not the real mother, but she is a shining light of pure brilliance in this film. She was absolutely outstanding. I'm a big fan of her. She doesn't really get that much attention, but I reckon if you see this film, you will notice her, because she is very, very strong, as always, and I really appreciated her performance. Just, that's the only real positive I have here. So did you guys see the 1517 to Paris? If you did, let me know in the comment section below what you liked, what you didn't. Let's get a discussion going about this movie in the comments. And as always, guys, please remember to be respectful. And subscribe to The British Critic for more movie reviews and movie-related videos.